All right, welcome back, friends. Hear Me Out podcast, and we got another banger for you guys today. I'm joined by my brothers, as usual, BT and my brother Franco. How's it going, gentlemen?
Doing well, doing well.
Oh, I like the polo, Franco, man. Looking fresh, bro.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
These protests are still going strong. We're going to be at Northwood today, 6:30.
Northwood High School.
Protest. Go follow them on social media for sure, and keep the good fight alive, man. Let's not let this die out. We want to continue the topic of protest here, and we're going to start in Portland, Oregon. So we got federal officers, not the Fed, like you said earlier, not the common term, the slang term, the feds, like you just see a cop driving around. This is actual federal officers sent by Trump to go to Portland and basically combat these protesters. So they've been snatching people up, throwing them in unmarked cars, not identifying themselves, no names, badges, nothing. And it's getting kind of spooky out there. So who wants to start on breaking this down a little further and explaining really what's going on out there?
Yeah, people were peacefully protesting for Black Lives Matter and defunding the police in Portland, Oregon. And then Donald Trump sends in the federal law enforcement to crack down protesters, even though there's peaceful protesting. You know, this is common with what other people say in other protests, in which people are peacefully protesting, and then the first people to start to throw punches, to start the violence, is the police or is federal law enforcement. And here, the same thing is happening. And people are also being taken away in mysterious vans, like they're unmarked. These people aren't saying who they are. You can see in the videos, people who are recording, people being taken away. They're like, who are you? What are your names? Who do you work for? Who are you?
Use your words. What are you doing? Use your words. What are you doing? Use your words. What is going on? Who are you? NLG will get you out. What's your name? Tell us your name. Okay, you're fine. We'll get you out.
Bro, what?
We got you, friend.
We got you.
Oh, fuck.
NLT.
You just violated their rights.
Oh. Kidnapping people.
You just violated their rights.
This could be anybody, and they're doing this. In my opinion, that should be illegal. This makes people feel unsafe, but this isn't anything new. This is something that our country does abroad in other countries, when other countries are resisting US imperialism. But now US imperialism is happening at home, and that's because they're afraid of the power of the people who are trying to impose disturbances so that we can get our basic needs met. You know, we want to defund the police and put more money into social programs like education, like mental health programs, like programs like Medicare for all. Like that's what, if people had their basic needs met, we wouldn't be out here protesting. And so Trump is afraid of that, and he's not doing himself any favors, because he ran as a populist candidate back in 2016, and now the populism is in favor of these protests. That's why so many people are out there. So he's not doing himself any favors on promising people their basic needs, like he did in 2016 when he said he's going to give them their jobs. So he's really hurting himself in the end.
Brooks, what are your thoughts on the situation out in Portland, man?
Just like you said, man, it's getting spooky out there.
Yeah.
It's scary because, you know, you don't want to be out protesting, exercising your civil right, your basic rights,
Yeah.
and just getting snatched by anybody. And you know, we live in a world that's, you know, human trafficking is real. You know, we have these things where people end up going missing, and no one ever hears from them again. And you just have random federales just like taking them up, and you don't know what could happen to you. You could literally die at that time. You could not get your Miranda rights recognized at all. You don't get a phone call, anything like that. So, you know, it's disappointing to hear about it, but said Franco, you know, we do this everywhere. You know, when we don't have our American value, or not our American values, but our American
The corporations.
interests recognized. Yeah, our corporate interests recognized, and then now we're doing it here, and it's not right. It's scary and it's very disappointing.
Is that not a blatant violation of human rights to just detain somebody without saying who you are? That is
and U.S. rights too. Yeah, because
rights.
Like I said, you don't know who these people are. They could have just been like random people who have guns that are stealing people away. You know, so people of course are going to react in self-defense. So in a way, they're kind of instigating, like they're looking for people to enact with violence towards them, so that they can have a reason to say, "Oh, we had to kill them because they were resisting arrest." Well, we didn't even know who you were. We didn't even know you were federal law enforcement. So why would you do something so reckless? And
yeah,
we need to think about.
It's very, very likely that. I was just gonna say it's very likely that they're not even wearing body cams or, giving us a chance to actually like record what's going on, and they're doing this impudently, and there's no way to actually have solid proof that these things are happening, other than the fact that we have people like us that's reporting on it and other papers and whatnot.
God bless smartphones, man.
And these are working class
So I
people. Like these are working class people, and this is what the police does. They try to control us. Meanwhile, like the elites are out doing their crimes. Like we covered the other day, talking about the illegal parties that people like Dan Snyder does, and he's not the only one. All these elites do all these other illegal actions where they F people over, and they get richer by doing that. They're not paying their fair share of taxes. They're destroying land that they're not that is off limits to them. So meanwhile, these police are focusing their energy on cracking down on working class people to keep us in check, and keep the elite, like protect the elites. Because that's what would be the end result with these protests, is that if we get our basic needs met, we're going to become more powerful, and therefore we can impose more, we can push for more policies that will be for taxing these elites. And they don't want that.
Yeah, the divide is definitely obvious in this country, but I wanted to backtrack here a little bit. I wanted to ask, what's the timeline on this here? Because we didn't see anything too crazy coming out of Portland for federal officers to just come in there and just start taking control of the city. So what exactly led to that, in your guys' opinion, that Trump felt the need to send out the feds over there to mediate whatever situation he thought was going on?
Yeah, I do want to add.
Narrative.
Yeah, I do want to add that the mayor of Portland, Edward Wheeler, he didn't ask for the feds. Neither did the governor, Kate Brown. She didn't ask for the feds. Trump just sent them in. So here's an article by OPB, and then I'll share that with you guys, which pretty much breaks down what happened. So,
yeah, and I just want to throw. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you going to throw in?
I was just going to throw in, as far as these protests, they've really 8 to 9 times out of 10 they're all peaceful. So this just goes to show us another one of the situations where it's like Brooks is saying, it's completely false narrative.
Yeah, and Pedro and Brooks, we've been to them, right? How were the protests that we went to in D.C. and in the local communities here in Montgomery County?
Every single one of them.
Beautiful, man. It's peaceful. No one was really getting rowdy or anything like that. People were just exercising their rights to protest and be pissed off. And like I said, it's false narratives. People are still associating what happened in week 1 and then like week 2.5 of this looting and the rioting and whatnot, and they're associating that with the protests being like that forever. And it hasn't been like that since, like I said, week 1 or week 2.
So here's an article that was published on opb.org, and it's called "Federal Law Enforcement Use Unmarked Vehicles to Grab Protesters Off Portland Streets." So Jonathan Levinson and Conrad Wilson write, in the early hours of July 15th, after a night spent protesting at the Multnomah County Justice Center and Mark O. Hatfield Federal Courthouse, Mark Pettibone and his friend Connor O'Shea decided to head home. It had been a calm night compared to most protesting downtown. By 2 a.m., law enforcement hadn't used any tear gas, and with only a few exceptions, both the Portland Police Bureau and federal law enforcement officers had stayed out of sight. A block west of Champaign Square, Pettibone and O'Shea bumped into a ground of people who warned them that people in camouflage were driving around the area in unmarked minivans, grabbing people off the street. So we already see that the people were peacefully protesting. The local police there didn't even have to use tear gas. And all of a sudden, as we move further along this story, we find out that O'Shea and what's the other gentleman's name? Pettibone encountered the federal law enforcement officers. So yeah, people were protesting Pedro and Brooks, what we've been seeing them protesting in DC and in local communities here in Maryland, as well as in other parts of this country, for Black Lives Matter and for defunding the police. But things were starting to become more organized in Portland, where they were protesting outside of courthouses and stuff. And then Donald Trump felt threatened. Portland is a pretty progressive city. And so he sent in federal law enforcement and to try to scare people away from protesting. So
This is what I keep saying to everyone, and that are second guessing going to these protests or still speaking on these situations, thinking that it's not going to make a difference. This is the main goal of most law enforcement or like higher ups in the government. They don't want anybody to be out there protesting. That's why they're going as heavy as they are on the extras, like the tear gas, the sending in the feds. They want to scare people to go away. They want to anything that they could use to get anybody discouraged on this topic or being out there protesting. You gotta stop. You can't listen to those people. We already see why.
And they're not even there on the ground. So I do want to show some videos of people who are on the ground. And I want to give a shout out again, to the Combo Couch. They're doing great work. They went to Portland, Oregon. They live on the West Coast too, but they live in LA. They traveled up north to go to Portland. And I want to show you guys some of the videos that they've been taking while over there. And over on their channel, they have 2-hour-long videos of them talking to people on the ground, people chanting, from the other chants that we hear in DC, no justice, no peace, people singing, people dancing, peaceful protests. And then the first people to start the violence is the police. So here we have Craig Pasta Hardula. He retweeted Fiorella Isabel. She says, watch how the Combo Couch team, Yo Pasta and myself, were inside the Bernie van as feds descended upon us and began tear gassing protesters. We couldn't get out because of the gas, but we also couldn't breathe. Feds went smashed the windows and pointed guns at us as the video goes black.
Okay, we're inside this vehicle. Oh, look, there are feds right here, right in fucking
So they're talking about how the feds are right in front of them.
here.
You can see the clouds from the tear gases.
Right here. Can we turn the lights off?
Right?
Can we turn the lights off in here? Turn the lights off
He's
inside.
asking to turn the lights off so that the feds don't see them, so that they leave them alone.
This is nuts. Make sure the doors are locked. Don't let them get in here.
Saying to make sure that the doors are locked.
We're behind enemy lines right here.
You see the feds getting closer and closer to the
We're
vehicle.
totally behind enemy lines right here. Oh my god, dude. Okay, look, they're looking in here. Watch out, watch out.
So it goes all black.
Don't say a fucking word.
It goes black. And then you start to hear bangs.
What's up?
And then you hear glass
we're inside
break.
this vehicle.
So the feds broke the glass window of their vehicle. Here is a video of the weapons that the federal agents used. The tear gases. And then over here there's more footage of the feds using tear gas on people.
Right in front of us. Where? Right here. Jesus Christ.
I do want to say that these tear gases, they're illegal in a lot of countries.
Turn the lights up in here? Turn the lights up inside. No.
And then I don't think you guys know about this, but in Syria, the U.S. and mainstream media try to purport Assad, who's the leader in Syria. They were accusing him of gassing his own people with chemical weapons, even though there was no evidence that he directly did it and that he was winning the civil war in Syria. And then an OPCW report revealed that it wasn't Assad that did that, and that it was likely U.S. allies that tear gas people. And now here we are, the U.S. using their law enforcement to tear gas people. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
Go ahead, Brooks. So you can go start with this one.
My thoughts on the police doing what the police do. I mean, like I said, this is what they do, man. We already touched on it. They like to escalate these things that are peaceful, and then they try to play victim and say, you know, I was in fear of my life. You know, I thought people were actually going to beat on me, this, that, and the third. And these people were just getting ready to go home. They were getting ready to just leave and you know, go to sleep. You know, get ready for work the next day or whatever they end up doing. You know, during this pandemic. But you know, you have a large group of feds, basically terrorizing people for no justification.
That's it. That's the key. That's an excellent word to use there. Terrorizing people.
Terrorizing people for no justification. Just President Trump said these protesters are violent. You know, they keep on burning down buildings. They're destroying businesses, and it's not true. Like I said, it hasn't been true in months. This has been 51 days, 52 days since the protests have started. We had, let's say, 4 or 5 days at max of crazy things happening. Since then, you know, we have peaceful protests. We have situations with the police that the police have started, and now we have federal law enforcement going into Portland and kidnapping people for no reason than to just terrorize people and just do whatever the hell they want to. And it's basically what the police do. They just get to do whatever the fuck they want to. Mm-hmm. Excuse my language.
Just to piggyback off of that a little bit, it's more of the cops, well, not even the cops, but just anybody against the BLM movement has been looking for any type of excuse to continue this. You know, things aren't going to change right away, obviously, but with this kind of stuff, they're trying to jam down any other narrative you could possibly imagine. You know, you got the whole thing about the rioting and the looting or whatever when they're breaking down the businesses. This happened within the first 2 weeks. Hasn't really happened too much that we have seen since, right? And then other things, an example would be people talking about disrespecting the flag with the whole kneeling thing, how that's disrespecting the troops, even though a bunch of troops say, you know, that doesn't offend me. So yeah. It's just a continuation of excuses of basically different narratives they want to push. You know, it's not that we're evil, it's that y'all are disrespecting us.
Look at how they're taking down the statues, right? As if anybody's getting hurt with that. As if anyone is getting hurt. Same thing with like the like people like breaking like the windows of Capital Bank and other things like that, and like Wendy's and stuff. Like it's hurting bigger businesses. Yeah, it's sad when like the smaller businesses get hurt, but we haven't seen as much of that since like the first 2 weeks. You know, people are.
And to add on that point that you just made about small businesses, we want to talk about how these guys are pushing these narratives, right? The people against BLM, specifically Trumpers and like cops.
Trump doesn't give a fuck about
anybody
small
else.
Businesses.
But the thing is, they don't care about the small business. They talk about they're breaking down all the buildings and stuff like that. They're not showing any love to the small businesses. All they care about is the big ones, the ones that are, you know, as you guys would say, fit their corporate interests. You know, that's all they care about. It's the dollar over the person, over the people, and that's how it's been, and that's how it's going to continue to be. You know, and we all got to wake up, and we all have to realize what's going on around us. And, you know, that's what we say at every protest. We got to learn who we need to vote into office and all these other things. People are not taking it as serious as they should, because it's starting to become another trend it's so many narratives fighting against each other, and it's hard to win a fight against somebody with so much ammunition. And they have all these narratives that they think that there's details to back it up, and really they're just aligning stars in the sky that don't line up.
If we had
basically what it's looking, you know.
If we had policies that better help the people, like for example, if people had Medicare for all, if they had UBI, like Universal Basic Income, if they had free public college, if they had affordable housing, if they had an increase in their wages for their jobs so that they can better afford other goods that they need in their life, they wouldn't be out there protesting. But that's not what Trump or a lot of these politicians, Joe Biden too, I'm not going to leave them out. That's not what they're focusing on. They're focused on demonizing these people and saying and blaming the other side. Oh, it's the Republicans' fault. It's the Democrats' fault. No, it's both of your faults, because you're not implementing policies that are going to help us. You're implementing policies that are helping the people who are paying you guys, and that's the corporations.
And not to mention, I don't know if this can be really related or not, but I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, right? So there's a picture circulating on Twitter, right? The officials on the Council to Reopen America. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, is that a legitimate photo?
That's what I wanted to ask you guys. You know, have y'all seen this photo that's circulating? You got 7 people that are on this council. Not one doctor, not one public health expert, not one person of color, not one scientist, not one national security expert, not one person qualified for this moment. That I think I probably could be related here when you think, you know, there's certain people that are handling situations right now that have no business handling these situations, like 90% of the cops at these protests. Yeah. They're not fit to handle these situations because they're terrified. You can't, the same way you shouldn't put Ivanka Trump on the Council to Reopen America. They even write down these people's what they do. You got handbag designer, failed real estate developer, a movie producer. These are the people that we have to count on to reopen our country. The same way we have to count on some insecure, scared police officers to police our protests and to police our day-to-day lives. It's ridiculous. And this is a daily reality. I think that people don't realize that this has been going on for so long. This is not new. This is just becoming more obvious now.
Yeah, for people saying that this is Trump's America was already like this before Trump. You know, just more people are waking up now during these.
Just more blatant about it.
During this when things have gotten so bad now post-pandemic. But yeah, just to
we have no choice but to watch these things happen.
Yeah. So crap, I forgot what I was gonna say to close off, but to close off, the police, they're not there to de-escalate things. As what we've seen, they're escalating things.
Yeah, and you know why they're doing that? They're there to escalate it because it'll help fit their narrative. Where, you know, we agitate you guys to the point where y'all get so pissed off, you start to break down statues, you start to break down stores. That's when I go and I point and I say, look at them breaking down the stores, these looters and these criminals. Every time we post a video that has anything to do with the protests or even political matters for that fact, and this is great about the podcast, about Hear Me Out podcast, is that every time we posted something over the last month, 2 months, there's always somebody there that's aligning stars that are all over the place. Like, people want it to fit their narrative so bad, be it the Bubba Wallace situation, be it the Atlanta situation, any
preconceived
situation.
Notions.
And that includes the police officers agitating people because they want people to F up. They want to detain people, and they want to have something for Fox News to put their cameras on and their analysts cropping Trump out with Ghislaine Maxwell and all that. They want to have things that fits their channel and fits their narrative, and that's how it's been, and that's how it's going to be if people don't wake the fuck up and realize what's going on.
Well said. I think we can close off there and move on to the next topic.
My guy or gal, thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell, and share this video for the latest on sports, progressive politics, and pop culture. Slat!